C.S. Lewis writes in his book, The Abolition of Man, I doubt whether we are sufficiently attentive to the importance of elementary textbooks. That is why I have chosen as the starting point for these lectures a little book on English intended for boys and girls in the upper forms of schools. I do not think the authors of this book, there were 2 of them, intended any harm, and I owe them, or their publisher, good language for sending me a complimentary copy. At the same time, I shall have nothing good to say of them. Here is a pretty predicament. I do not want to pillory 2 modest practicing schoolmasters who were doing the best they knew, but I cannot be silent about what I think the actual tendency of their work. I therefore propose to conceal their names. I shall refer to these gentlemen as Gaius and Titus, and to their book as the Green Book. But I promise you there is such a book, and I have it on my shelves. In their 2nd chapter, Gaius and Titus quote the well-known story of Coleridge at the waterfall. You remember that there were 2 tourists present, and that one called it sublime and the other pretty, and that Coleridge mentally endorsed the first judgment and rejected the second with disgust. Gaius and Titus comment as follows. When the man said that it is sublime, he appeared to be making a remark about the waterfall. Actually, he was not making a remark about the waterfall, but a remark about his own feelings. What he was saying was really, I have feelings associated in my mind with the word sublime, or shortly, I have sublime feelings. Here are a good many deep questions settled in a pretty summary fashion. But the authors are not yet finished. They add, quote, this confusion is continuously present in language as we use it. We appear to be saying something very important about something, and actually we are only saying something about our own feelings. Before considering the issues really raised by this momentous little paragraph, designed, you will remember, for the upper rooms or forms, before considering the issues really raised by this momentous little paragraph, designed, you will remember, for the upper forms in schools, we must eliminate one mere confusion into which Gaius and Titus have fallen. Even on their own view, on any conceivable view, the man who says, this is sublime, cannot mean, I have sublime feelings. Even if it were granted that such qualities of sublimity were simply and solely projected into things from our own emotions, yet the emotions which prompt the projection are correlatives, and therefore almost the opposites of the qualities projected. The feelings which make a man call an object sublime are not sublime feelings, but feelings of veneration. If this is sublime is to be reduced at all to a statement about the speaker's feelings, the proper translation would be, I have humble feelings. If the view held by Gaius and Titus were consistently applied, it would lead to obvious absurdities. It would force them to maintain that you are contemptible means I have contemptible feelings. In fact, that your feelings are contemptible means my feelings are contemptible. But we need not delay over this, which is the very pons ad sinorum of our subject. It would be unjust to Gaius and Titus themselves to emphasize what was doubtless a mere inadvertence. The schoolboy who reads this passage in the Green Book will believe 2 propositions. Firstly, that all sentences containing a predicate of value are statements about the emotional state of the speaker, and secondly, that all such statements are unimportant. Now it is true that Gaius and Titus have said neither of these things in so many words. They have treated only one particular predicate of value, sublime, as a word descriptor of the speaker's emotions. The pupils are left to do for themselves the work of extending the same treatment to all predicates of value, and no slightest obstacle to such extension is placed in their way. The authors may or may not desire the extension. They may never have given the question 5 minutes serious thoughts in their lives. I am not concerned with what they desired, but with the effect their book will certainly have on the schoolboy's mind. In the same way, they have not said that judgments of value are unimportant. Their words are that we appear to be saying something very important when we in reality are only saying something about our own feelings. No schoolboy will be able to resist the suggestion brought to bear upon him by that word only. I do not mean, of course, that he will make any conscious inference from what he reads by a general philosophical theory that all values are subjective and trivial. The very power of Gaius and Titus depends on the fact that they are dealing with a boy who thinks he is doing his English prep and has no notion that ethics, theology, and politics are all at stake. It is not a theory that they put into his mind, but an assumption, which 10 years hence, its origin forgotten, and its present unconsciousness will condition him to take one side in a controversy which he has never recognized as a controversy at all. The authors themselves, I suspect, hardly know what they are doing to the boy, and he cannot know what is being done to him. Until quite modern times, all teachers, and even all men, believed the universe to be such that certain emotional reactions on our part could be either in agreement or incongruous to it, not in agreement. Believed, in fact, that objects did not merely receive, but could merit our approval or disapproval, our reverence or our contempt. The reason why Coleridge agreed with the tourist who called the cataract sublime and disagreed with the one who called it pretty was, of course, that he believed inanimate nature to be such that certain responses could be more just or ordinate or appropriate to it than others. He believed, correctly, that the tourist thought the same. The man who called the cataract sublime was not intending simply to describe his own emotions about it. He was also claiming that the object was one which merited these emotions. But for this claim there would be nothing to agree or disagree about. To disagree with "this is pretty" if those words simply described the lady's feelings would be absurd. If she had said, "I feel sick," Coleridge would hardly have replied, "No, I feel quite well." When Shelley, having compared the human sensibility to the Aeolian lyre, goes on to add that it differs from a lyre in having a power of internal adjustment, whereby it can accommodate its chords to the motions of that which strikes them, he is assuming the same belief. Now, just as a side note, Shelley here is derived from an essay by Percy Shelley entitled A Defense of Poetry and Other Essays. "Can you be righteous," asks Traherne, "unless you be just in rendering the things their due esteem? All things were made to be yours, and you were made to prize them according to their value." St. Augustine defends virtue as ordo amoris, the ordinate condition of the affections in which every object is accorded that kind of degree of love which is appropriate to it. Aristotle says that the aim of education is to make the pupil like and dislike what he ought. When the age for reflective thought comes, the pupil who has been trained in ordinate affections or just sentiments will easily find the first principles in ethics. But to the corrupt man they will never be visible at all, and he can make no progress in that science. Plato, before him, had said the same. The little human animal will not at first have the right responses. It must be trained to feel pleasure, liking, disgust, and hatred at those things which are really pleasant, likable, disgusting, and hateful. In the Republic, the well-nurtured youth is one who would see most clearly whatever was amiss in man-made works or ill-grown works of nature, and with a just distaste would blame and hate the ugly even from his earliest years, and would give delighted praise to beauty, receiving it into his soul and being nourished by it, so that he becomes a man of gentle heart. All this before he is of age to reason, so that when reason at length comes to him, then, bred as he has been, he will hold out his hands in welcome and recognize her because of the affinity he bears to her. In early Hinduism, that conduct in men which can be called good consists in conformity to, or almost participation in, the Rita, that great ritual or pattern of nature and supernature which is revealed alike in the cosmic order, the moral virtues, and the ceremonial of the temple. Righteousness, correctness, order, the Rita, is consistently identified with sketa, or truth, correspondence to reality. As Plato said that the good was beyond existence, and Wordsworth, that through virtue the stars were strong, so the Indian masters say that the gods themselves are born of the Rita and obey it. The Chinese also speak of a great thing, the greatest thing, called the Tao. It is the reality beyond all predicates, the abyss that was before the Creator himself. It is nature, it is the way, the road, it is the way in which the universe goes on, the way in which things everlastingly emerge, stilly, in tranquillity, into space and time. It is also the way which every man should tread in imitation of that cosmic and supercosmic progression, conforming all activities to that great exemplar. In ritual, say the Analects, it is harmony with nature that is prized. The ancient Jews likewise praised the law as being true. This conception in all its forms, Platonic, Aristotelian, Stoic, Christian, and Oriental alike, I shall henceforth refer to for brevity simply as the Tao. Some of the accounts of it which I have quoted will seem perhaps to many of you merely quaint or even magical. But what is common to them all is something we cannot neglect. It is the doctrine of objective value, the belief that certain attitudes are really true, and others really false, to the kind of thing the universe is, and the kind of things we are. Those who know the Tao can hold that to call children delightful or old men venerable is not simply to record a psychological fact about our own parental or filial emotions at the moment, but to recognize a quality which demands a certain response from us, whether we make it or not. At the end of C.S. Lewis's argument, his entire book, Lewis states that if the sole source of all value judgments is rejected, then all value is rejected. Lewis predicts that it will leave us in the hands of unscrupulous operators who do not believe in humanity itself. The abolition of man will have occurred because there is no reason to regard man, as the Tao has always regarded him, as a moral being.